If you remember back in October, we looked at a couple new Laval monsters in the OCG. We had Laval Archer, a new monster that gives you an extra normal summon and can revive itself from the graveyard, which is pretty cool. And we got a new Synchro monster that can fix your hand and Book of Eclipse your opponent's monsters. So these cards were pretty cool, and I think with Blazing Vortex, people were a little bit underwhelmed with the amount of fire support that we got. Obviously, we did have the Metal Foes monsters, and yeah, we did have other fire support as well, I suppose, but it seemed like a lot of the Blazing Vortex cards were more about the Vortex, the wind monsters, so people have been really asking for more fire support, more pyro support, especially in the comment section. But these two cards were cool, and I think they're pretty good. I think they're actually maybe good enough to make Laval's a rogue deck, but I think the general player base was asking for more. Well, yesterday we got more announced, and in today's video, the first video of 2021, let's talk about this new fire support. So these are in Lightning Overdrive, which is the next core set after Blazing Vortex. The first card here is a Laval Xlord, a level 8 Fire Warrior Synchro that takes 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner fire monsters. You can only use each of the 1 and 2 effects of this card's name once per turn, so they are hard once per turns. The first effect says, when your opponent activates a monster effect in the hand or on the field, quick effect, you can destroy that monster, and if you do, inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. The second effect here is if this synchro summoned card is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can special summon up to 3 non-synchro fire monsters with 200 defense from your graveyard in defense position, but their effects are negated. So first off, I just want to say I am so excited to see a non-negation interruption effect on a monster like this. I think the ability to destroy an opponent's monster when it uses its ability is really cool. That is what I want to see more of, and if you've watched some of my videos over the past couple of months, I've talked at length about how I think negation is sort of overused on cards like this, big boss monsters. I want to see more interesting forms of interruption. This card probably would have been better if it just negated the card and destroyed the card and did the 1000 damage, but I do appreciate that this is not a negation. I think that it's cool that Konami is doing something different. I think it's very important for there to be good fire extra deck monsters that you want to go into, because if you remember, Laval Archer actually does restrict you to summoning only fires after you revive it from the graveyard. You want a big card to go into that actually has a relevant effect, and I think this card fills that role pretty nicely in my opinion. If Konami is really trying to push fire support, I think that one of the ways they could do that and make people not actually just summon Borreload Savage Dragon or Herald of the Arclight is that they could release more cards that restrict you to only summoning fires, much like Laval Archer, which is a very strong card. We need more cards like that so that you actually have to make things like this. That could be pretty cool, and I think that they are looking to do that more. I mean, Laval Archer is a good starting point, but this would be a decent monster to end on if you are restricted to fire monsters. However, if you're not restricted to fire monsters, I'm not sure how likely it's going to be that you'll summon this card. I will say here, I should mention, it does have 200 defense, which means it does combo with Rekindling, I suppose, but is that enough to really make this card viable unless you have to only summon fires? At this point, I'm not entirely sure. Still, it is a pretty cool boss monster, and I really do hope that Konami is giving Lavals more and more support. That is an older theme with some pretty powerful cards, but it never was really able to come together to be a competitive deck. More cards like this though, and more cards like the last two reveals, could be good for Laval players. But there's another fire support card. We have Explosive Birth of the Flame Champion. You can only activate one card with this card's name per turn, so it's a hard once per turn. Target 2 fire monsters with 200 defense in your graveyard, 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner. Banish both, and if you do, special summon 1 fire synchro monster from your extra deck with a level equal to the total levels of the banished monsters. So basically, it's like a Miracle Fusion that synchro summons instead of fusion summons. But what is the point of this card? Because we already have 3 copies of Rekindling, they summon a whole bunch of monsters, they're not once per turn. What is the purpose of playing this card, which is a hard once per turn and only can summon 1 monster, and it has to banish the monster is engraved for that effect to work. I've seen some people talk about that this is like having extra copies of Rekindling. I'm not sure if I entirely agree there. It is almost a strictly worse version of Rekindling in every single situation. I suppose the only situation where it's better is if you have way too many monsters on the field already and you can only fit one more monster. I suppose in that case, I mean, you're probably already winning, but I suppose you could then summon your one fire synchro, which would be pretty cool. One of the other ways that you can make a card like this really good is that if it is searchable by some means. I've talked about this in the past, but when cards are searchable, they don't have to be necessarily as powerful as unsearchable cards because you only have to play one copy and then you can add it to your hand whenever you want it. So if there's a new card that can search this, well then maybe it's okay because yeah, it's not as powerful as Rekindling, but you can search it whenever you want it. That being said, this card is part of no archetypes at this point. Explosive Birth of the Flame Champion is just its own title. There's no other themes in there. It's not like there's a Flame Champion archetype, so I'm not sure if they'll ever make this card searchable. The good news is that even if this card isn't that good, it once again is showing that Konami is willing to give fire monsters more support. We had a couple cards in Selection 10, we have a couple cards already in Lightning Overdrive, so maybe with more reveals from the set, we'll see more and more fire support. That being said, this card is pretty unimpressive in my opinion, but the Synchro monster is pretty darn good, as I already mentioned. This card will never fit into any other video, so I do want to also mention that this adorable little Otter card got revealed. This thing is not very good as far as I can tell, but it is just so cute. So I cannot pronounce the name at all. I am not even going to try. We'll just call it Otter, I suppose. Otter is a level 1 Earth Beast tuner monster that says if you control a non-tuner monster, your opponent cannot target this card for attacks. The more interesting effect here is the second one that says if a monster is sent from the field to the opponent's graveyard, so not your own, place one Otter counter on this card. Then special summon Otter tokens, Beast Earth level 1, attack defense up to the number of Otter counters on this card. Increase the level of those tokens by the number of Otter counters on this card, and their attack and defense is 500 times the same amount. So this card is kind of a cheesy way, I suppose, to summon a bunch of tokens if your opponent is putting monsters in their graveyard. The tokens don't really do anything on the opponent's turn though, so I'm not really sure what the point of this card is. I suppose the point here is that the tokens then protect this card from being attacked because they're non-tuners, but I'm not sure how much that really matters. This is probably just a common pack filler card, but its artwork is adorable and I just had to mention it. That being said, when are we going to get a Walrus card, Konami? It has been a long time. We've had over 10,000 cards, still no Walruses. Maybe someday we'll get one of those. But as for now, I will enjoy the Otter releases because this card is adorable. But anyway, that is all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below what you would like to see Konami do for fire and maybe pyro monsters as well. I think that there is a lot of potential with these new Laval cards, but they probably need even more to truly be competitively viable. I'll see you later. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.